Now, most guys think that running and muscle growth don't mix. That if you want to run fast, that you have to sacrifice your muscle size. And if you want to get completely jacked, you have to avoid running completely. To be honest, that's total BS. The truth is, if you can fuel your body right and you can run the right way at the right intensities, you can build muscle, you can be strong, and you can still run fast, all at the same time. Today, I'm giving you the exact blueprint on how to train, how to eat, how to recover while keeping every bit of muscle so you can stay lean and still get faster at the same time. Now, losing muscle isn't because you're running, you're losing muscle because you're making these mistakes. Number one, you're simply not eating enough, and that is going to be a simple math equation to be able to keep you in a surplus. When it comes to your recovery, your body is always breaking itself down because you're not training properly, so you're just beating it down instead of repairing it, allowing it to build. When it comes to your training intensity, we've talked about this in other videos, but it's probably too high, and if you're in this too high stress state all the time, you'll have increased cortisol, you'll have increased stress because your body doesn't know the difference in physical, mental, and emotional stress. So if you're training too high all the time, you are living in this ultra stress state, and if you can't get down, your body can't regulate, so it can't get rid of fat. And you don't want to hear it, but you're still training like a bodybuilder. In order to become that hybrid athlete where you still can run fast and build muscle, you have to have a blend of training that looks slightly different. I just had a client who went through the program. He was a firefighter. He was training 5 to 6 days a week, running his ass off, and he was wondering why he was losing muscle. The problem was the dude was under eating 1,000 calories a day, doing all of his runs at this high intensity. So essentially he was overtraining. Hate that word, but he was too stressed all the time. I hate that word because it really just means we're under recovering. You can train hard, but you have to recover harder. So that's what we did. We fixed his training intensity, we fixed his nutrition, and within 3 months, the dude put on 5 pounds of muscle. Now he's built more muscle and he's running faster than ever. You can't build muscle if your body doesn't have the right fuel to do it. So what most guys try to do is they train really hard, but they're not eating enough. So your body, for a lack of better words, eats the muscle. And what I mean by that is if you're not feeding your body, think about it. When we talk about our BMR, our basic metabolic rate, our body does not want to have muscle. Our body wants to get rid of muscle because it requires more calories to be able to survive. Our body is always trying to be in a survival state. So if you're not feeding the body enough food, your body's going to get rid of the things that it doesn't need, which is muscle, because it requires and demands more calories. So when it comes to an actual caloric intake, how many calories you need, just a general idea. It's gonna be different for everybody. You should know where your homeostasis is, your BMR, your basic metabolic rate. But here's gonna get you in the ballpark, and then data will tell you if you started eating this amount of calories and you gained or lost weight, you can reflect back on this, but this is an idea. If you're trying to lose fat, 10 to 12 times your body weight. Trying to maintain 12 to 14, if you're trying to build muscle 14 to 16. That's very general. What you should do is say, I'm eating X amount of calories. I added this amount of calories. At the end of the week, did I lose 0.05 to 2 pounds or did I gain? So that's the only way to know, but this is gonna get you in the right ballpark. But simply put, if you're lifting and you're running and you're not building muscle, it just means you're not eating enough. When it comes to your nutrition, you can't be afraid of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is going to fuel your performance, going to give you some good calories. We talked about this in other videos, but when you're doing a pre-workout nutrition, if it's early in the morning, you want to keep it something lighter. If you like to have something on your stomach, something like a banana, some honey, some electrolytes. I personally like to have a little bit of carbohydrates as well, but if you don't have time to do that, that's a good example for you. If you're doing it later in the day, you want to have something a little bit heavier, some oats, some protein, something that's a little bit more substantial. That way you're not full, but you're still getting enough carbohydrates to be able to perform in your runs. And if you're running fasted, keep those fasted runs on recovery days. It's really hard to run at high intensities, your threshold work, your speed work, when you don't have a lot of fuel in your body. And I'll be completely honest, most lifters run like a complete idiot. They go all out every single run, they gas out, they burn out, and you wonder why you're smaller, you're weaker, your endurance sucks, and you can't figure out, oh, I just suck at running. When it's done right, running can build muscle because it'll actually increase your ability to have better endurance on a mitochondria level, on an actual energy production level. You can increase your fast twitch muscle fibers when we're doing plyometrics. And if you can improve your aerobic capacity, you can improve the circulation to your muscles, you can get better blood flow, you can get better pumps to your muscle. The only reason why you're not gaining muscle when you're running is because you're running at too high intensities, you're not eating enough, and you don't know how to structure the training. So let's talk about how to actually structure and understand the different types of training zones so you're not just running like an asshole, like a bat out of hell every time you go. So before we dive into these different type of training zones, there's a couple things I want you to know. I want you to know that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 training zones. And essentially, when we start to run, I want you to know that as time goes along and your heart rate goes up, this is how most people run. They start running, they go as fast as they can, and it's just a straight arrow up. Now, a couple things that you need to know. At a certain point in time, somewhere around, depending on your fitness level, maybe around here or maybe around here, your body is going to switch from using primarily fat as fuel as opposed to carbs as fuel. Now, two things that happen here. At lower intensity, depending on your fitness, it might last for longer. At lower intensity, your body's primary source of energy production is fat. Now, that's a good thing because you're using your oxidative efficiency from fat. You have a lot more fat stored than you do carbohydrates. Don't quote me on this, but your body can only store something like 2,000 calories from carbohydrates, I think it is, compared to fat was like 200,000. It's like astronomical. So you want to become fat efficient. Now, what happens is when your body burns fat, it burns a lot less calories as opposed to when your body is at really high intensities. If you're training all up in here, your body's primary source is from carbs, but you burn a ton of calories. Now, this is why whenever you're training at a high intensity and once you bonk, you basically have run out of glucose and you don't have that energy production anymore. So what I'm getting at is we have to become very fat efficient or have a strong endurance and aerobic capacity by improving our aerobic base. Because if you're fat efficient, if you have a strong aerobic capacity, you're going to be delaying this process of when your body switches to carbs as primary source of energy production longer. The longer you can do that, the better. And that's also why it matters when we're doing threshold training and we're doing speed work and we're doing zone 2 work. We don't want to be getting up in here and bouncing around in your heart rate. If we're doing zone 2 work, we want to stay in zone 2. We don't want to slip into that lactate work and have bad blood get into our cells. Let's not even talk about that. That's next level stuff. But let's get into these two things. But that is a big thing to understand. Fat versus carbs, low calories versus high calories. Building your base is the number one thing because it's going to delay this process of when that lactate production begins. Another thing that's great about your zone 2 or aerobic runs is this is fantastic for flushing out muscle soreness. Now remember, if we want to train really hard, we want to recover even harder. So zone 2 training is actually going to help you improve your recovery. It's going to improve your blood flow. If you can improve that and you can expedite that process, you're going to recover better. You're going to have better muscles. Zone 2 will help with that. And just as a reminder, the easiest way to figure out your zone 2 is by 180 minus your age. That's going to give you roughly a parameter of where you should be. And then depending on your fitness level, that might be somewhere between 3 and 7 up or down. If you don't have a heart rate monitor, a good way to do this is you can talk in full sentences while you're running, or my favorite if you're running alone is to be able to breathe only through your nose. There's a ton of benefits on nasal breathing in itself, but that's a good way to gauge that. Nasal breathing, talking in full sentences, or if you're like me, I like to have it on my watch, being able to set up parameters. That way I know precisely where I'm at. And speaking of which, having a heart rate chest strap is a lot more accurate than just relying on your watch. This is where challenging training begins. This is what helps to improve your VO2 max along with improving your aerobic capacity. But this training is very hard. This training hurts. This training sucks. This is intensities 80% plus your max heart rate. This is tough training. This is when your legs burn. You do set 1, set 2, your legs start to hurt. Set 4, your lungs start to hurt. This is tough stuff. And this is intentionally shorter recovery periods so that we can demand that physical stress, that blood into the legs. But this is also where the growth happens. This is when you learn how to overcome and you understand the challenges of training. And you get to work those mental wins on how do you continue to progress. Are you focused on time? Like if you're doing a 2-minute interval, you can't just suffer for 2 minutes. You get to play these mind games. All right, I'm going to break this up to 1 minute in my mind. I only got a minute to go. Or I've got 4 sets of 30 seconds. The first 30 seconds is going to be easy. The next 30 seconds is going to be challenging. And then everybody finishes strong. Or if you're doing laps, all right, I'm halfway there. You got to play all these different mental games that help you stay strong. You got to dial into your breathing. Focus on your breath work. Maybe you're counting up to 10, then you back down to 1, then you look at your watch and you see how much time you got to go. And then maybe you go down to 8 and you pick up your pace just a little bit quicker. And then you just find these different mental games to keep you focused and stay strong because threshold training hurts, it's painful, and it's a lot more mental than it is physical. That's not true, but mental is the big piece of it. Now, a lot of times I see people that only go over here and they don't do these things enough, or you only do this stuff, you don't do that enough. But the truth is if you run hard all the time, you're going to lead to injuries, you're going to lead to burnout, and you're going to be in that stress state all the time. Now, the flip side of that is if you don't ever run hard enough, you're gonna stay slow. You're gonna train your body to just stay in this slow capacity. And I'll go ahead and tell you, when you start to do zone 2 training in the beginning, if you're someone that is used to going all out, and now I make you run in the zone 2 training capacity, you're gonna feel like you're crawling. You might even have to walk. And one of the progressions that we do to help increase your heart rate to be able to give you enough demanding, it starts off with running. But if your aerobic capacity sucks, you're gonna feel like you're crawling. So you might actually have to walk. So as you get a little bit fitter, it might turn into a shuffle. It might turn into an incline. You can't increase your speed too much or your heart rate goes too high. So what we do is we keep the speed the same, but you find an incline, or you might have to do a ruck. And then finally, you'll be able to actually start running. But read this over one more time. So you're gonna get exposed to how aerobically unfit you are. So you might have to walk. The walking might turn into a shuffle. You might have to run on a small incline to get a little bit of physical demand to spike your heart rate a little bit so you can actually move, because you're getting fitter, so you can't walk. And every time you start to run, your heart rate spikes too much. So you're playing that balance as you're trying to get fitter. So you might have to throw on a ruck to do that. This is an essential part of improving your aerobic capacity, especially when it's very poor in the beginning. And when it comes to training, we have to train hard and we must recover even harder. We need to treat sleep like it's the most important workout, because technically it is. It's when the growth happens. It's when the body repairs itself. It has to be taken more seriously. Put the damn phone away. We need to be sleeping 7 to 9 hours for optimal hormones and healthy function. Things you probably already know, but this stuff matters. Your last hour of your day should look the same every single night if possible, just like the first half of your morning should look. So when you brush your teeth, you drop the temperature, you close the curtains, you put your phone in the box. You need to have these steps that you do to help you get into a relaxed state. Personally, I'll share mine. I put the phone away, I brush my teeth, I take a hot shower or a hot sauna, because if you can get your external shell, your body hot, in order to go to sleep, your body has to drop its temperature in order to fall asleep, and you want to have a cold room. So if you get hot, your body's working hard to be able to cool itself off. So it's actively working towards that. If you take 3 to 5 minutes to do some stretching or some box breathing to get into a parasympathetic nervous system response, so I'm starting to now unwind. I also write down my top priorities that I've got to get done in the morning or the next day so I can get that off of my mind. And I keep that same schedule every day. And when it comes to ice baths and hot saunas, not everybody has access to it, but let me just speak to it for a second. A hot sauna is gonna be great. Hot shower, hot bath is the closest thing you can get to it. Do that. It's gonna be great to improve blood circulation, because what that does is it helps to get circulation going. Improved circulation means improved recovery. There's also a ton of benefits to hot sauna as well. When it comes to ice baths, not everybody has access to a plunge, so some people go and buy ice and put it into a tub. It's great for reducing inflammation, but I want you to think about this. Whenever we're trying to build muscle and running and all that stuff is a form of stress. And when we have stress, there is natural inflammation in our body. If we do an ice bath immediately followed a muscle building training session, we are essentially stunting that natural inflammation process. So it's not actually allowing you to break down and then rebuild. You're just saying, I need to be the same. Now, hear me out here. If you are already at peak performance, let's say, for example, coming up a week or two from an event where you want to do, you're not trying to build any more muscle, you only care about recovery. I need to get rid of all my inflammation. I'm as big as I want, I'm as fit as I need to be, I need to prioritize recovery. That's the only thing that matters. An ice bath is okay because it's going to help you recover faster. To recap, if you're going to do the ice bath, have it be 6 hours after your training session. Hot sauna, good at any time. If you can do a hot sauna, hot shower after a muscle building session, you're actually going to improve that blood plasma level to the muscles, which is going to help essentially grow more, recover faster. And another great thing when it comes to recovery, walking, rucking, those are always great things for active recovery because it's all about blood circulation, guys. That's why I like contrast therapy too, because you get hot, you get cold, you get all the blood rushing to your heart when you get cold, then you get into a hot shower, hot sauna, all that blood rushes out. And that blood flow, that circulation really improves. Circulation means improved recovery. Now we talk about how a training program goes up, almost takes you to breaking point, takes you back down, and that's typically a 10% increase per week. But here's the deal, when you start to feel drained, you start to feel like you're getting injured, we want to almost get you there because we're trying to create adaptation. In order to create adaptation, we have to force the body to change, but then we pull back, we cut our volume before we make any more strides and progression. And you got to listen to your body. If your strength isn't progressing, you might have to reduce your training volume, check out your nutrition, or as I just talked about, recover harder. And when we talk about recovery doesn't mean you're soft. It means that you're taking your training seriously and you care about your results, which also means we might need to be looking into supplementation so that we can optimize your efforts on all levels. Because in reality is the guys who recover the best get the best results. So in the next video, we're going to dive deeper into how to run fast and not stay slow all the time. Click up here somewhere to check out the next video.